All right, Chapter 21, How to Configure and Deploy Applications, ASP.NET applications. So, in this chapter, it's a short chapter, we basically just go over the three options we have for deployment from Visual Studio.NET. And that doesn't necessarily mean that's the way that people always do it. Actually, a lot of folks I know build jobs. There's batch commands or PowerShell commands to build deployment issues, and some people will go so far as to make it part of what's called a continuous integration project, where you've got your website, your test website, you're making changes as things get checked into source control and they get tested and verified. It'll kick off a nightly job that make sure everything compiles, and then move it over to the QA environment, and then move it over to the production environment, all sort of part of an automated continuous integration management. That said, these are just more basic tools. So what are we going to look at? We'll look at the web. We've already seen the website administration tool. We'll look at some of the options for using Xcopy deployment, basically dropping out to a DOS prompt and just copying your files over. Setting up a one-click deployment project, a setup program. These are all, there's basically using third-party tools that are included with Visual Studio, the Install Shield program to create a setup program. So we've seen in the previous two chapters, we've seen the website administration tool. I don't really need to mention too much more about that. It's our GUI interface to the web.config. We talked about home security application provider. This is all review. If we want to do Xcopy deployment, so we've developed our application and now we want to move it from development to production or to QA. Preferably we would go from development to some sort of test environment, to some quality assurance or a user acceptance environment, and then go to production. But we can do Xcopy. So literally we can just go out to a DOS prompt, create a batch file, and Xcopy our files from our development to wherever we're going. There's also a copy website command in Visual Studio, and I think we show that next. No, let me actually jump out there and show it to you. So go to Visual Studio. This is the copy website command in Visual Studio. So I'm in Chapter 18 as an example, and I just clicked on website, copy website, and it brings up this copy website tool, which is just a GUI version for Xcopy. So it's selected my current project as the source. I can connect to some file system. If I had a drive map to my development server or my QA server, I could connect there. If I had I could connect to my local IIS if I'm just moving it from some other system to my local IIS, or if there's an FTP site, I could actually connect to that. And then once I connect to any of those things, I can choose what I want to move over and Xcopy it over to any of those destinations. Now, if you want to do a more automated deployment, maybe you developed a web app that you're selling to people, you can create one of two setup projects, either a one-click deployment, which allows you to package everything up into one set of files that you can then put a link out to you can publish a link out to some website where people can click on it and then download all your software from that. And you've seen that probably with Office or some of these on web demand installs, where you click on a file from the web and then it starts pulling everything across the internet and installing it all at once. The other option is using a setup program, where we actually go and we add a separate program to our current project. But the project that we add is a setup project, and then the setup project looks at the other projects that we have in our solution and uses them as sources to package and make a CD or a setup program that we can then distribute to folks. So we already showed you the copy website window and how to use that. The one-click has a profile tab that you can set up to publish your files into a one-click website somewhere, and you specify things like how I'm publishing it, where the server is, the site name, where the destination. You determine which configuration. So by default in Visual Studio we're in the debug configuration. It's always a good idea to switch to release mode when you're ready to actually put your code out into production, so it doesn't include all the debug symbols that are necessary for debugging when we're in development. And then finally, the third option is the Install Shield Project Assistant, where we can actually add, so you can see here, here's my solution, then here's my website, but then I've added a whole other project to my solution that is going to be my setup project. And let me actually show you that. So let me jump out to Visual Studio, and let's close the copy website for a second. And so here in my Solution Explorer, I've got my, bring it up, my application that I want to distribute my Halloween store. Now what I can do is in my solution say, hey, let's add another project. And what kind of project do I want to add? A setup project. So I'm going to come down here and say, hey, other project types. I actually want to create, I want to have a setup project. And there's only one choice, the Install Shield. It used to be something different. It used to be some internal software that Microsoft made, and now they went out and bought Install Shield, a limited edition. They include that for free as part of Visual Studio. So I'll say that's fine. And it comes through and it lets me know, do all the download. But once that's downloaded, what would happen is it would actually come up with my, as we saw in the slides, with the program, and basically it walks you through a little wizard here. Step 1, what do you want to include? Step 2, what data are you pulling through? Step 3, what's the target going to look like, and you specify which files, any registry entries that you're going to make, any file extensions that you want to associate with. And once you specify all that, so here you can see this is what project data we're pulling over. We want the content of all the content being the executable of our and the pages, the SPX pages and stuff. Once we step through all that, it packages it all up, and then it creates a setup.exe with some additional files that we could put on a CD for distribution. So that was a quick walk through Chapter 21, some of your setup and deployment options for ASP.NET. Again, if you have any questions, shoot me an email or hit me up in the Q&A live meeting pane. Thank you.